Today, we're going to take a journey, a really unique one, about 2,500 years into the past. We're going to read the personal poems of the Buddha's very first disciples. And this isn't just any old text, it's one of the oldest collections of first-person poetry in the entire world. So, right off the bat, listen to this. This verse is from a monk named Arevada, and he wrote this just a few hundred years after the Buddha lived. It just perfectly captures the whole spirit of these poems. They were meant to be a light in the darkness, a way to cut through confusion.
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. What if you could do that? These aren't, dry historical records. They're the intimate, deeply personal poems of real people who are wrestling with the biggest questions of life, meaning, and freedom 2.5 millennia ago. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first things first, we need to set the scene. Where did these poems come from? When were they written? Understanding their origin story is absolutely key to feeling their full power.
This is the world we're talking about. This is Jambudvipa, or ancient India, way back around 500 BCE. And this isn't some mythical, far-off land. No, it was a real place, full of kingdoms and wild forests and rivers, and this is exactly where these monks wandered, where they meditated, and where they composed these verses.
The collection itself is called the Theragāthā. Now, in the ancient Pali language, Thera means a senior monk, an elder, and Gatha means a verse or a poem. So it's pretty straightforward. It literally means the verses of the senior monks.
In this timeline, wow. It really shows you just how incredibly old these poems are. They were mostly written in that 200-year window right after the Buddha passed away. That makes them one of our most direct links to his very first followers. In fact, think about this. The official commentary explaining these poems wasn't written for another 1,000 years.
So who were these people anyway? Were they just these stoic, emotionless figures sitting under trees? Not even close. Let's take a look at the actual human beings behind these verses. This quote here from the translator Bhikkhu Sujato, he just hits the nail on the head. He perfectly captures this amazing paradox. On one hand, their lives were so different from ours, living in leaf huts, wearing tattered robes. But then you read their words, and you realize they're just like us. They have the exact same fundamental human desire for peace and freedom that we all feel today.
And that right there is the crucial point. The Theragāthā isn't some dry philosophical textbook. It's a raw, living, human document. It's really a collection of voices, all expressing everything from deep fear of failure to the absolute soaring joy of liberation.
And that brings us right to the heart of it, to the core themes of the poems themselves. And they really cover the entire spectrum of the spiritual journey, the highs and the lows.
As you go through the collection, you start to see these three big themes pop up again and again. This deep, profound joy they found in living a simple life out in nature. A really honest look at the internal battles with desire and doubt that frankly every meditator faces. And these incredible expressions of the profound peace that comes from real spiritual freedom. Just listen to this verse from a monk named Siddhakāta. It's so vivid, isn't it? He's not talking about some abstract idea. He's describing the actual sound of peacocks in the morning and how that simple moment in nature inspires him to meditate. It just shows how deeply connected they were to the world right in front of them.
But then, boom, you get a verse like this one from Tallaputta, and the whole mood just shifts completely. He's literally arguing with his own mind. He's calling himself out, pointing out the hypocrisy of wanting to leave the world behind, but then struggling with the actual practice. It's so honest, and man, is it relatable. This is the internal battle laid completely bare.
Okay, now let's explore something where these ancient texts get, well, surprisingly modern, and that's their whole approach to gender.
See, the monks weren't the only ones writing this stuff down. There's a parallel collection, it's called the Therīgāthā, and it contains the verses of the senior nuns. And having both of these gives us this really unique chance to compare their experiences side by side.
So just look at this comparison. It's amazing. On one side, we have a verse for a nun, Nanda. On the other, one for a monk, Kula. And the meditation instruction they're both given is identical, word for word. They were both taught to see the body in the exact same way, completely regardless of their gender.
And this is the key insight here. The whole goal wasn't to create disgust for the body or to objectify it. No, it was a very specific technique, a technique to dissolve categories. The whole point was to see that underneath the surface, a male body and a female body share the exact same messy, impermanent nature. It was about erasing the lines we tend to draw between things.
What this ancient practice was getting at is a very modern idea we might call body neutrality. It's not about forcing yourself to feel positive about your body all the time, and it's not about fixating on the negative either. It's about seeing all of it, the beautiful parts, the disgusting parts, with a sense of calm acceptance, with equanimity. And why? To become free from our attachment to it.
So what does any of this mean for us, right here, right now, living in the 21st century? How does the wisdom of these ancient forest-dwelling monks actually apply to our lives today?
The translator, Bhikkhu Sujato, poses this pretty intense challenge in his preface. He basically holds up a mirror to our modern world of consumerism, which he calls a plastic prison of our desires. It's such a stark contrast, a life dedicated to finding inner freedom versus a life dedicated to just getting more stuff. For these ancient poets, the path couldn't have been clearer. True freedom wasn't found in getting more things, it was found in needing less. As the translator puts it, they made a conscious choice to dedicate one's life to having less. For them, that was the ultimate freedom.
And so, that really leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. In our world, a world that is constantly screaming at us to accumulate, to upgrade, to want more, what can we really learn from these ancient voices who found liberation and even joy by going in the exact opposite direction?